You have seen our studios, and you may have wondered, what does it take to do that? We're going to answer that this week with Adam Stalnaker, as that is a question he is now qualified to answer. We're making the maiden voyage here in the Rockport Wealth studios. And unlike the Titanic on its maiden voyage, we are definitely not going to sink. We're going to answer a lot of your studio questions, and you're going to get to learn about Adam and Rockport Wealth in the process. Stay tuned. Adam.
Josh.
You have a studio.
I do. I mean, this is awesome, isn't it?
It very much is.
Yeah.
Very much is. I mean, the details, the stuff that, like the wall and that you guys did, yeah. With this, you've made a pretty significant investment in this. The eyebrows, the twitch in the eyebrows.
Sorry. Yeah.
You're trying
There was nothing behind that at all.
What were some of the key factors that made you say, look, we need a studio?
Yeah. Well, we did it in the past, Joe and I, just sitting at our desks, and it was good. But it was us sitting at our desks. Well, and actually what caught my eye was you on LinkedIn, right? And you talking about your studios. And, I reached out and said, hey, could Joe and I come down and check one out and see because we had this space within our office that was going to become available that we kind of pictured that it would fit for what, we were looking for. So we came down and checked out your studio, and I think you had a little bit more space than we did, but we made them build us a little bit more space so that we could fit it in. But yeah, it was a ton of work. The stone itself was from our admin Bev's husband, put it up for us. A lot of the foam on the sides was Joe. I put the curtains up. We put furniture together. It was a team effort of putting it all together. And then you came in and made it all work, right?
The wiring stuff.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that
that was stuff that we weren't going to do. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So, I mean, a lot of this, most of the stuff that we do, it's about marketing.
Yep.
It's about promotion. It's about getting good information out there.
Yep.
When you started this, what are the marketing goals that you thought of when you were getting ready to do this?
Well, I think what Joe and I think about when we think about marketing is more just educating people and clients.
Sure.
A more educated client, as we've seen over the years we've expanded our newsletters, expanded communications, a lot less panic when things take place because they're more informed, right? So they're more educated. There's a lot less of the, oh my gosh, sky's falling, we need to do something. What are you doing for me? It's a lot more of when we meet with them, they're like, oh, thanks for the newsletter. It made a ton of sense. It eased a lot of my curiosities, my frustrations. But I think expanding upon that too is as we go to the next generation, the younger generation of people, understanding what are the things they should be thinking about? How do they get started? And getting that next generation of people with the mindset that, they need to save, they need to look at their insurances, they need to do all these things without us sitting down face to face. So I think where we can expand things and looking into this podcasting or education programming is being able to offer a lot more education programming.
I like what you said there with the educated consumer, because then that to me, and it's the same thing that we try and do with our podcast. That's exactly what we're doing right now. Educating people on what's going on so that way they can show up and they know what they need, why they need it, and they know the purpose behind it too. And it's not just randomly throwing darts at numbers or anything like that. That's I like that. The other piece to that is, do you feel this is going to give you a better connection with a lot of your current clients?
I think so. I think when it comes to, we'll talk about Roth conversions, right? It's a big topic, and we'll do a video, so stay tuned. But as we're educating people, see, you got to get them to come back, right? But it's an education point that a lot of people don't understand. They don't understand the opportunity there. So I think if we're able to tee them up with some education on why we look at those things, and Joe's done a ton of research when it comes to Roth conversions and IRAs with Ed Slott and all these other programs that he's gotten into. And as we educate more ourselves, we can educate our clients, and then they can come to us when it makes sense, instead of everybody raising their hand at once and saying, hey, is a Roth conversion good for me? Well, if everybody did that at once, it's a little much, and Megan wouldn't be too happy. Megan's our paraplanner. You'll see her on some stuff later on too. She's peeping in on this one too. But
she would not be happy in terms of the workload, I'm assuming.
Absolutely not.
I don't even think I was.
We have better things for her to do. So.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So, I mean, like you said initially, you came down to one of our studios and said, okay, yeah, this looks doable. This looks feasible. As we started talking about the equipment, what were some of your thoughts when it came to that? Like, I mean, what did you envision?
Not as many boxes when it all got delivered. It was like Christmas time in my house when my wife orders everything from Amazon, right? It was just all these boxes and continuing to open things up and look at them. No.
You thought it was going to be a couple of boxes.
Yeah, but it was a lot. If people could see a picture of what all is inside here, it just looks like it's you and I sitting here at a table, but there's a whole lot more.
Right. There's a couple of cans in front of us, and they don't realize the 3 cameras, the 4 tables, the computer.
Lights.
1, 2, 3, 4 screens, lights.
Yep.
Yeah.
All the foam on the walls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was
a lot. It was like, how are we going to put all this stuff into one space, right?
How is this all going to fit in that closet-sized room? Because that's something else that I think is interesting. A lot of people, when they come to one of our studios, and I'm assuming they're going to have the same reaction here, I think you guys were surprised when you walked in the room and you're like, oh, it's only this big?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you had seen podcasts and you're like, okay, this is great, giant, big hallway. And it's not a big room.
No, not at all.
I mean, there's 5 of us in here right now.
It is.
It's cozy.
It's cramped.
It's cozy.
It's going to get warm.
Yes, it is. And we're like 8-9 minutes in.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's already toasty. I can't believe you're wearing something long sleeve.
I know.
You're just the trooper when it comes to that.
Well, it's usually cold in this office, so
not in here.
Not in this particular room, though. No.
What were some challenges along the way in getting all this together, besides putting the foam up, besides assembling the furniture?
Well, I sliced myself really bad trying to cut the foam one day because Joe did a great job of getting all the big pieces in, right? So there's big pieces all over and there's little cuts. And then I was like, oh, there's a little bit of sticky on the blade of the scissors, and just ran my finger right down. And so we'll call that a challenge. And then figuring out curtains in the corners. Yeah, that was a challenge. It wasn't a challenge putting it all together because you did that. So.
You guys did all the furniture and the foam and the stuff like that. And I mean, you guys did a great job. It looks really good in here. And especially, I mean, like I said, this wall is super cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the look of it. I feel like there should be a fireplace here. Maybe it just feels like there's a fireplace in here. Maybe that's the right way to put it.
Right.
If another financial advisor is thinking about putting up a studio, what would be your advice, or what's something that
don't do it? I don't want the competition.
I was just going to say, besides don't do it, we don't want the competition.
No, I think it's a great idea depending on what they're trying to accomplish, right?
Sure.
I think a lot of us are educators, teachers to a certain degree with our clients, and I think it's a great platform, a great piece, a great way to be able to do it. But you gotta really buckle down and make a commitment to it, right? Like, we're not going to put this thing up and then do something once a month, right?
A podcast.
Yeah. I think it's something that we put the money into it, but we also have to put the time into it. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is if you're going to do something, if you don't put the time into it and expect some sort of result, that's not realistic. Like, you got to put the time in, you got to plan it out, and plan out what you're going to do as well.
I mean, and as we've talked about some of the production pieces with it, you're like, oh, okay, there's more than just come in, push the button that says record, and away we go. And suddenly we magically have this podcast that goes out into the world and brings us all sorts of clients.
Yeah.
The one thing that I like with this too is, especially, I mean, you talked about the piece about with working with people. There's a trust thing. People need to trust you.
Yep.
They are basically, I mean, I don't want to say giving you their money, but in a sense, they're entrusting you with the money.
Yep.
For you to appear in front of them all the time and to be like, look, this is who I am. As long, and we've known each other for a very, 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 very
it is true.
long time. I think that was a very for each decade.
It's true. Yeah, absolutely.
But to me, it's the fact that you are who you say you are is a huge thing, and you can't really hide behind the microphone. You can't really hide behind or around the camera. It's just going to be you. It really is. You guys do some collaboration with some other people. One of them, a name that was brought up was Tony Main.
Yep.
How do you see the studio changing that collaboration?
Well, I think we'll be able to, because he's out of Columbus, Georgia, and he's basically on base, working with Army Rangers. So as we've done some collaboration in the past and done some podcasts. It weaned off a little bit, but I think with this, we're going to be able to now make an effort more and say, hey, we need to do this, right?
We spent the money, we got to use it.
Right. But I think it's going to be able to give us that platform back and get back to creating that education piece for the veteran community.
Speaking of which, that excellent segue into my next question here, because I mean, something you said in some of the pre-questions that we worked on was that you guys saw a gap in financial literacy for many veterans. They're coming out of the service, whether they've been in there for a few years or a lot of years. And that adaptation to civilian, I don't want to say money, but civilian finances is different. The program that you guys have, can you give me the 60 to 70 second summary of that?
Yeah, and I think that's another reason why we did this, right? To expand that programming that we had before. Joe and I put together a 5 video class, basically starting out basics. What do you need to think of? What do you need to worry about? Real easy to digest. I think 5, maybe 10 minutes max on the videos, a workbook that goes along with a little bit of homework. And it was some of the first videos we did. It was pretty funny how bad we were.
It's always painful to go back and watch the first one.
I think we became much more comfortable at the end, and we're able to do a whole lot more. So I think we're looking forward to creating more education programming for the veteran community, and being able to create a library that Tony and his group can just access. Free of charge, be able to educate themselves. Nice. And then if they need us, we're there for more. If they don't, if they can move on and take those steps that we kind of gave them, that's kind of our, it makes us feel wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's, I mean, to speak of that, what are like some of the gaps that you've seen in that in terms of that knowledge? I mean, most people, I mean, in the US, we are known for being terrible about knowing what the heck to do with our money.
Right. I think that it's no different in the veteran community than the civilian world. I think the behaviors, the habits, right? I think what we've become is a group of consumers, and all we want to do is consume, and it becomes unbalanced, right? So I think when we talk to people, even in our own lives, right, we want to be able to become balanced. We don't want to, have too much on our work plate and not enough in our personal plate. Because if you become unbalanced, then things are just going to go awry. And I think it's the same way within finances too. So I think what we've done is we've consumed way too much and haven't gotten that habit of saving and being able to invest, and understanding that, if you are 20 years old and you start investing now, even though it's at small amounts, it's going to be a huge impact later on. So I think that's one of the pieces that just to get through to these guys that, hey, here's the impact. Here's the time value of money. Like, understand that if you're starting in your 20s, you're going to be so much further ahead. And then insurances. Unfortunately, these guys, they beat their bodies up. So when they come out of the service, it has become a challenge for them to get life insurance. So being able to get it while they're healthy, before they go through the rigor of being in the military, and then going through the disability process on the way out, to where now everything is on the table. And so when they're going through the life insurance process, all that information is available to them. And then it makes it really, really difficult for them to get insurance. So those are like the 2 major things that they can start with. And it's real easy to do.
So you've said that people should educate themselves on the differences between advisors and planners and learn to make sure that you're working with a fiduciary. What's the difference?
Absolutely. So let's talk about a fiduciary. A fiduciary is someone that works in the best interest of you as the client. So they take out conflicts of interest. So when I want to sell you something and I make a commission, and you buy said thing and I receive a commission, and then maybe I'm not bound to work with you anymore on it because our transaction was that, right? So if I need something, I can sell you something, you pay me something, and then that's it of the transaction. You want somebody that continuously works with you, right? You want somebody that, if you're working on a plan, and our plans aren't a one-time thing, they are a continuous, I call it living, breathing plan, right? We sit down, let's say you come into our office and you work with us and we put together your plan. As things change in your life, you let us know, we update said plan. Okay. Your balances are updating all the time. You understand how you're getting charged. We're sitting not across each other, basically from the table, figuratively. We're sitting on the same side because our goals are exactly the same. And you know exactly what we're trying to say. And so it really takes away that conflict of interest of, hey, who are you doing this for? More for you or more for me? And so over the years, I think what happened was in the commission-based world, and not saying that, like, for some people, those are fine ways to work with them.
Sure.
But I think in the overall world of commissions and fees, commissions create more of a conflict of interest, and fees are more upfront. You understand what you're paying, you understand why you're doing it, and then, it's a better understanding instead of, so you did this, how do you get paid? Well, when you sit down with me exactly how you're getting paid, because you're going to sign a form, you're going to see exactly how it works, you're going to see it come out of your account every month and understand why you're doing it.
That makes sense. Okay. So there's much less of a chance of an ulterior motive in any type of product, any type of movement, anything.
Absolutely.
Like that.
And once again, I'm not saying that people are doing that. It's just, it takes away that, the visual of it.
Sure. That makes perfect sense. There's always the car salesman that's saying, hey, you need the bigger, better, faster one. Right. When really, you just need the grocery getter.
Instead of selling somebody something, you're finding a solution for their problem.
Wonderful. That makes sense. You've emphasized continuous learning too. That seems to be just a pillar of what you guys do. What are some of your favorite resources that you go back to?
Oh man, I mean, I think networking in this industry and understanding that I don't know everything, and people have done things different ways from us, and we need to learn how all these different ways are, and then we can kind of pick and choose on how we put ourselves together. We have a business coach who helps us, on a monthly basis to kind of work through things. He works with a ton of different advisors, so we get an understanding from what other people are doing too, and kind of walks us through things. It's listening to podcasts on even different industries based on just business itself, on how things are put together, because this is a business too, as well as, we're helping people on a day-to-day basis. So we got to be able to run this thing in the most efficient manner, whether it's, HR, payroll, like all those sorts of things.
Got to keep the lights on to help people.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So we got to continue to grow too. So because as we grow more, we can help more people.
Sure. And you guys recently have gone through a big growth spurt.
We did, yeah.
You just purchased another company, essentially.
Right. Yep.
And that has been interesting in itself, I'm sure.
It's got its challenges, right? I think you've got different company cultures. You've got different ways of doing things, and learning, what good things they're doing, what things we're doing, and how do we combine them together to make kind of a marriage.
Sure.
And it takes time. I mean, even though when you go into the transaction and you say, hey, this all looks great on paper, once the personalities get in there and you get to be working with all these other people, you never know what's going to happen. And, we've had those sort of challenges, but it's, you got to emphasize learning, got to emphasize open mind and communication. As long as you're doing those things and you're talking to people with the right intentions, I think it all works out. In the end.
That makes sense. That is well put, and I like that. The other thing, I find it really interesting that your coach also works with a lot of other financial advisors. A saying I've always loved is that a smart man learns from his mistakes. A wise man learns from the mistakes of others. If someone else has already made the mistake, I probably don't want to make that.
No.
We look at a ton of other podcast studios for the same reasons. What's gone right? What's gone wrong? How do they handle things? So that way we can look and be like, oh, I like that idea. Or I'm glad they messed that up so we don't have to.
Well, it's going back to learning, right? How many times when you were growing up did your dad say and try to teach you something and you did not do it because you're like, you don't know what you're talking about? And then you come back later and you're like, wow, he was right. Right?
I have a great short story about that. When I was about 29, 28, I went to my father and said, Dad, I don't know what happened to you. When I turned like 12, you got stupid. You didn't start to get smart again until I was like 24, 25. Without hesitating, my father looked at me square in the eyes and he goes, that's weird. He goes, it must be genetic. My dad had the same thing.
It's true though, right?
100%.
But you go full circle on that and understand that as you're older in life and there's other people in business that have made mistakes. Why not learn from those? Because I don't want to make those mistakes.
I don't want to make those mistakes.
Those can be expensive.
Yes,
right?
they can. Yes, they can. What advice would you give to an aspiring financial advisor who's just starting out in their career?
Yeah. I really think that you need to find a firm that matches your values and gives you a system to learn and not have pressure to sell or bring in money. Because think about it, as a 22-year-old, think about it. Is a 22 going to come up to you and say, hey, Josh, I've got this great idea. And you're like, you're 22. Like, when did you get out of college? Yesterday? Like, but if they bring somebody a little more seasoned like myself, receding hairline, a little bit of gray, it makes it a little easier for them to bring people in. But it allows them to learn too, because we've made those mistakes, right?
Sure.
And you give them a platform of learning and growing and then allow them to just flourish. That's where you need to find it. I think going out on your own right away is just not conducive. Like that's what Joe and I did. And frankly, like when Megan came in, we said, no, you don't want to, like, all the warning signs, like, don't do that. This is the best place for you. And
nice.
She would say that she made a great decision. So
we're waiting to see if we get a nod from that from the corner.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone that's looking at financial planning? Yeah, I mean, from a completely starting from zero.
Yeah. Well, I think why, right? What do you want to accomplish? Like, I think this is a great business to help people. I think and educate people. So I think when it comes down to it, how does it match your values? Does it match what you're trying to do? And I think helping people is a very rewarding thing. But sometimes it's really hard to get started and grow. So you have to be patient. And I think one thing that a lot of people, young people, we'll call it, in this world, they just don't have the patience when it comes to growing. They want to be, head person right away.
I was very patient when I was 22 also.
Yeah, I'm sure you were. Yeah. But it's one of the, if I can give anybody, and you rewind back of, giving somebody advice that's getting in this industry, is having patience to be able to understand and learn and understand how the growth works and understand how they can get into this position at some point.
Sure.
But yeah, patience is huge.
Either side of it. So whether it's the financial advisor side or the person that's bringing both of their dollars here.
Correct.
It's patience.
Yep.
Time is an amazing thing when it comes to money.
Oh God, yeah. Nice. It's your biggest, bonus tool out there is time.
Love it, especially when you're young. Mm-hmm. Makes perfect sense. Is there anything as we start to wrap up that you would like to add?
Dude, you unpacked a lot of information here. No, but I think you hit a lot of the points. I think balance in life, right? I think is so important. I think it's balance in business too, and being able to, if you do all growth and you don't take care of your clients, well, guess what? You're not going to have any clients.
Right.
And if you spend all your time on customer service, but don't add any new clients, eventually all those clients are going to go away and you're not going to grow and you're going to die in business. So it's balancing those pieces out too. And it's balancing the educating yourself too.
Sure.
You can't just
100%.
Yeah.
Every day there's a couple of podcasts that deal with podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that. Every day they're in the car.
Because I mean, and it's self-awareness, right?
Yep.
You know you don't know everything. And
100%.
when you don't know everything, that's when you can start learning.
Yeah. I love that. And that to me is a great place to finish. For all of you out there, keep on learning, because that is the key really to moving forward, especially when you add time into that equation. That being said, do me a favor, take care of yourself. And if you can, take care of someone else. I will see you very soon.